First of all, the mainstream media is mischaracterizing what happened. They acted like the violence was equal from the right-wing groups and the left-wing groups. Please tell us what you saw.
So I was mainly on the Antifa side for basically the whole day. The Portland police had learned from past protests to keep the two sides separate. But once the Proud Boys left the area, you would assume that Antifa would also go home, but that actually wasn't the case. They stayed out in the city for hours. They went out into the downtown area, causing traffic disruptions, and they were appearing to find people who appeared to not be on their side to instigate violence, and then that's where we were those videos of people being assaulted.
And talk to me about the police presence. We saw so many videos from journalists such as yourself showing what was happening. It seemed to me that there wasn't police presence to defend the innocent people as they were being assaulted. What did you see?
So, as I said before, there was a heavy police presence when the Proud Boys were there. But when the Proud Boys left, it seems that a big chunk of the police force actually left with them, and so that only left a small contingent in the surrounding area. So that resulted in police playing catch-up, essentially, to these instances of fighting and violence, and that's where we saw people being cut off and surrounded by Antifa for either appearing that they were on their side, or in some cases, some people did say that they weren't for Antifa necessarily, but that didn't necessarily make them white supremacists.
Right, so who exactly were these people? Because the mainstream media, the few networks, few and far between, who were covering this at all, made it seem like it was the Proud Boys antagonizing Antifa. You say much of the violence happened after the Proud Boys left, so who exactly was Antifa attacking?
So I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, with the bus incident, it appears that the bus was filled with a group called the American Guard, which the ADL has described as a white supremacist group. That is the only group that I'm aware of that was there after the Proud Boys had left. But there were plenty of other instances where it appears that it was just curious bystanders who just wanted to see what was going on. And Antifa, and I captured video of it myself, of Antifa pushing them out and calling them a Nazi when there was no obvious sign or obvious indication that they were in fact Nazis.
Right. What would you say, what was the most surprising thing that you heard? I mean, being in the midst of Antifa all day, first of all, that's frightening to be in the midst of people that endorse violence. What were you hearing? What was the motivation of these people?
So they obviously were saying that the Proud Boys were white supremacists and they were wanting to implement fascism in the United States. And as you mentioned before, I was wearing an American flag T-shirt, as I've had multiple times before, without zero incident. And I was told by these people that the American flag was basically essentially the same as a swastika. And so, because I had worn that, they kind of marked me as a spy, as a race traitor myself, and it became a little bit of a hairy situation for a little bit there. So the most surprising thing I would say is that, for me, from what I heard, was just even wearing an American flag was basically declaring myself as a white supremacist, which obviously isn't true.